Augustine's Rule, a commentary by Adler Zumkeller OSA, translated by Matthew J. O'Connell. Chapter 2: The Purpose of Monastic Life. At the very beginning, St. Augustine sets before us the concrete purpose of our religious vocation. He wants to show us clearly from the beginning what we should be striving for each day of our life. He knew from his own experience as a young man how people are hindered by not being clear on the meaning and purpose of their life, or by even having lost sight completely of this purpose. According to Augustine, this is the meaning and task of the religious life, in the short sentence that is number 3 of the rule, namely, the main purpose for your having come together is to live harmoniously in your house, intent upon God, with one heart and one soul. He uses the Latin word unus, or one, evidently intentionally, and repeats it intentionally. He wants to bring home to us how important it is to him that we should really be of one heart and one mind in God. Augustine's aim is to establish a community that is rooted in God, a community in which all the members are interiorly united into a living whole. The idea of Christian community provides Augustine with a center in the light of which he views and organizes the whole of community life. He once preached a sermon on the words of Psalm 132, "See how beautiful and pleasant it is when brothers live in harmony." The words of the psalmist sounded like heavenly music in his ears, like the blare of a trumpet that rings out across the world and everywhere leads men and women inspired by spirit-given love into religious communities. According to the rule of St. Augustine, community life is not based on simple natural goodwill. That is the point Augustine is implicitly making when he repeatedly emphasizes that our life together must be that of a community intent upon God, in Deum. The phrase is characteristic of Augustine's dynamic conception of Christian life. As Christian religious and as religious families, we are on our way to God, intent upon God. God is the goal toward which we are daily advancing, both as individuals and as communities. This being intent upon God, this shared seeking of God, therefore sets its mark upon the whole life of the monastery. For this very reason, life in community, as Augustine conceives it, is more than a helpful condition for the carrying out of the joint apostolic tasks entrusted to us. Augustine is convinced that in such a community the person encounters God himself. He says boldly in Sermon 355, "He who will remain and share a common roof with me possesses God." He even admits that after a difficult day of labors, he gladly takes refuge in the love of his brothers, and leaving aside his cares, finds rest there. He writes in letter 73, "For I sense that God dwells there, God in whom I find a safe hiding place, in whom I rest secure." distinguishing element in Augustine's conception of monastic community is community and communion as a goal, and not as a mere function in the service of other tasks. To be intent upon God with one heart and one soul is, for his spiritual sons and daughters, the primary goal of their shared religious life. This communion, then, becomes in turn the soil in which all other apostolic tasks find nourishment and firm roots.